بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. والصلاة والسلام على حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Dear brothers and sisters, as we continue what we started the past few nights, talking about perception and paradigms, and how we start interpreting the world around us through the different lenses. Sometimes these lenses are not clear enough. And as we discussed yesterday, how this interpretation and this way of looking at things may have an impact on the way we interpret things in our lives, and then the way we feel towards them, and therefore as a result, the way we behave towards them. Tonight, inshallah, we will continue the discussion. I will talk about specifically some specific paradigms of life, and then the roots of these thoughts, and then we will end with the third point, talking about a real-life application of understanding these paradigms and how we apply them. See, when I talk about my life, when each and every one of us reflects on his or her life, how we see things, how we interpret things around us, there are a few questions that I want to help start the conversation with yourself. What is some of the driving forces in my life? What are the important driving forces in my life? What truly takes so much of my time and occupies my mind? What goes up in my mind? What questions do I have about life? And most importantly, I want you to ask yourselves this very important question. Is there anything specific that you obsess over? Something that you always want? Something that takes most of your thinking, occupies your time as you think of it? There are so many different things that may occupy our minds. So many different things that we become busy day in, day out. We become so infatuated in them that truly we spend our days, the hours of our day thinking of them, thinking about them. We look at so many of these details because we are so obsessed by what? By that object. Sometimes it's an individual. Sometimes it's an object. Sometimes it's a hobby. Sometimes it is school, sometimes it's a career. Regardless, there are things around us that we become obsessed. They become the center of our lives. Yesterday we talked about how myself, me, the person, how I look at things around me, how I view things around me, how I assess things around me. But the problem here, brothers and sisters, that I want to address tonight is when other things in our lives become the center of our lives, they become the obsession of our lives. Sometimes our friends are the center of our lives. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I want you to start thinking. Because each and every one of you has friends in his and her life. Should the friend become the center of my life? Should my life revolve around him and her? Should I change who I am, become who he is or who she is? How much should I push myself to change the person I am to become the person they are? How much of my time is spent in trying to emulate, trying to imitate the other person, he or she? Sometimes we live with people, we spend time with people around in our lives that we become affected by them to a point we want to become them, we want to talk like them, we want to walk like them, we want to behave like them, whether right or wrong, whether good or bad, it doesn't matter. I want to do what he or she is doing. Sometimes, some of us start to build a relationship. Some of us, we want to build a relationship. We get to know someone, of course, in the right way, in the right manner. Maybe someone from the opposite gender. We want to get to know them. We change our lives to please them. You become someone else. You become someone different. Sometimes that change is positive, but a lot of times it is negative. Why? It's not because you're trying to change. Change is good to the better. But the problem, if you're trying to change for them to please them, what if tomorrow they change their mind about who you are and what you are? Do you have to shift again? Change again? What if they change what they like? What if they themselves went downhill? What happens to you? You break apart? You dismantle? You become a nothingness? What happens to you if the driving force is someone else other than you? They control you. You become a controlled entity. You become a tool to please them. But sometimes, even they are not interested in you. Most people do not like weak people around them. Dear brothers and sisters, it is important to realize if those around us become the center of our lives and we want to change who we are, to please them, so we are who they want us to be, the moment we let go, or they let go, I mean nothing. You would mean nothing. Why? Because all you are is what they wanted you to be. And the moment that bond is broken, you become meaningless because you became meaningful for them. When they no longer exist in your life, what is your value? Friends who are with you, grow up with you at school, so many of us, through our high school years, we try to change who we are. We try to fit in groups. These groups sometimes have very rigid, hard requirements. You need to do certain things. You need to walk a certain way. You need to dress a certain way. Some people, some young men and women, leave who they are. They change who they are. What they were taught, how they were taught, how they were raised, they let it go. It is not anymore who they are. Why? Because they want to fit in a certain group. Once they graduate, that group is no longer around. 4 years of their lives, they molded themselves, they shaped themselves, they gave up so much of who they were so they could fit in that group. Now what happens? Once they graduate, once they move on from high school to college, now they need to change. What happens? They need to be someone else. They need to be someone different because there's a different group they need to fit in. See, this person who's always trying to change, not for the better, he or she, thank you very much, is trying to change to fit in a group. He or she does not have their own standard. What do they have? They are changeable to someone else's standard. They do not have their own personality. We lose ourselves in the efforts trying to please someone else. Well, today, someone suddenly tried to woke up in the morning, a very strong personality in that group. He decided, or she decided, she or he wants to dress in a certain way. Now everyone around them want to emulate them. They want to change the way they dress. They want to dress like them. They want to break rules like them. They want to be a little bit more different like them. They're actually not different. They're just what? A copy of someone else. The only people that we ought to and we should emulate and try to copy are the Immaculates and Ma'sumin alayhi salam. The reason is because they are more than just individuals. They speak a thought and ideal. And we'll talk about that inshallah tomorrow. But in general, people, if I am changing not for what the person stands, but just to be like the person, how they are, how they behave, how they dress, how they walk, and how they talk, just because wanting to please them, I've lost myself. Sometimes, dear brothers and sisters, we are defined with what we have, with our worldly obsessions, with our worldly things that we have in our possession. Some of us work so hard, day in, day out. For what purpose? Just so we can afford a fancy car. Why? Because this fancy car is what I love. This is why I wake up in the morning so I can afford the payment at the end of the month. I try to work so hard so when I drive and pull into my friend's house, they can see me driving this car. What happens? The car defines me. I became a possession of the car because now my daily work, what I do, is defined by this physical object. Someone said, if who I am is what I have. Listen to this very carefully. If who I am is what I have, and what I have is lost, then who am I? If who I am is what I have, my worldly possessions, and I lost them, then who am I? If what defines me are the worldly possessions, and by the way, I understand that we have a lot of things out there that we would like to have, we would like to own. There's nothing wrong with it. There is nothing wrong with trying to own things. There is nothing wrong with trying to like things. There is nothing wrong with owning things as long as they do not own you. That's the key. You can test that very easily. How easily is it to let go of it and move on? How easily is it to let go of a worldly possession and not be addicted to it, defined by it? So many of us, would it be a simple game? It could be a car, it could be a dress, it could be jewelry, it could be simple things. When they own us, we work day and night just so we can have them, just so we can be seen with them. That's where the problem lies, because my life became centered around that thing. Same thing in a relationship, dear brothers and sisters. We all get involved. We all get to know different people. How much of this relationship starts defining who I am? It could be school. It could be parents. Sometimes individuals who we become impressed by. Whether it is a basketball player, football player, soccer player. How many of you guys were watching the U.S. and Belgium game today? Okay, this is a bit weird. I didn't expect that one. Well, it's a good thing. I'm not saying anything against it, which is weird. Sorry they lost. But there was something very interesting today. A friend of mine, as we're working, they had the game projected. And I think it's what do they call that? Half an hour after the, what's that? Halftime? Extra time, sorry, I'll take it. The extra time. After the first goal, the second goal, and when the U.S. scored the first goal, and then there was another try where they tried to score and then they missed it. One of the brothers, one of my friends, he stood, jumped, and he was so mad, and he was start yelling, screaming, cursing at the player. And I'm like, wow, really? Why? And he turned around and he's like, you don't understand. What is it I'm not understanding? Why is there such passion towards a game? I don't understand. It's just, he didn't score, so what? Sometimes we become so attached to things. Our attachment defines what? Our behavior. Our attachment defines our behavior. I want you to think about that. You know, sometimes we try to hide who we are, but in the heat of the moment, we just say something. Sometimes we try to act extremely polite, extremely well-mannered, you know, that we're so... But then, something happens and we say a curse word. Why? Why is it we were not able to control ourselves? Because that curse word, the way we learned it, which is bad because the Quran tells us we shouldn't. We were used to it and we tried to put a superficial face and we tried to hide cursing. When that right moment came, we just said it out loud. So it's important to try to eliminate it from its roots. Dear brothers and sisters, the way you look at life, whatever you make the center of your life will define you. Whether it's an object, it's a human being, whether it's a feeling, whether it's a career. Sometimes people work day in, day out. They work all the time. They don't have anything but work. Their work is their passion, but it is also their life. The moment their work ceases to exist, they cease to exist. So, how should we live? If it's not an object, if it's not a person, how and what should be the center of our lives? Allah Azza wa Jal gives us a very beautiful example. In Surah Luqman, Allah gives us a beautiful story. Imagine a person, a man, his name is Luqman. Luqman, as Imam Sadiq was asked one time, he was asked, was Luqman a prophet? Was Luqman a messenger of Allah? What was he? The Imam said, Luqman was a man of virtue. He obeyed Allah Azza wa Jal and God elevated him. Very simple. And if you notice, there are 114 chapters in the Holy Quran. 114. There is one of these chapters that hold the name Luqman. So what did this man do that he was honored to name a chapter of the Holy Quran under his name? Allah said in the Holy Quran, وَإِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. Look, imagine Luqman, this virtuous, pious man. He has his son. He brings his son. Allah describes this. إِذْ قَالَ لُقْمَانُ لِابْنِهِ. Luqman is telling his son, وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ. While he is giving him an advice. See that love how is described between Luqman and his son. وَهُوَ يَعِظُهُ يَا بُنَيَّ يَا بُنَيَّ. My son. Look at the affection. Look at how he is relating the emotion to his son. Why? He's about to teach him something very important. He's about to tell him something vital for his being. Luqman is about to teach his son. What is he going to teach his son? What would he tell him? Ya bunayya la tushrik billah. Do not associate with Allah. Inna shirka la dhulmun azim. Associating with Allah is a great sin. Luqman alayhi salam took the time to teach his son. Ya bunayya la tushrik billah. Do not associate with Allah. Do not associate with Allah. Inna shirka la dhulmun azim. It's another translation of what statement? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. You may ask yourself, really? It's that simple? Let me tell you, dear brothers and sisters. The core of everything you do in this life, everything, every breath you take, every moment of your life, it revolves around one statement. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Look at that statement. How is it described in the Holy Quran? Give me your undivided attention so we can learn from the verses Allah Azza wa Jal sent to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا. Look at how Allah Azza wa Jal described it. Have you seen how Allah set an example to us? What is that example? The purpose of the example that you and I can relate to it and build on it. شَجَرَةً كَلِمَةً طَيِّبَةً. A good word. كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. Like a good tree. So Allah Azza wa Jal is setting an example in the Holy Quran for you and I to learn. What is that? Kalima tayyiba, a good word, is like a good tree. Now I'm talking, relating this word to you. Asluha, its root is very steady, very firm. Wa far'uha fi sama, and it branches in the heavens. Tu'ti ukulaha kulla hinin bi'idhni rabbiha. It produces all the fruits by the permission, by all the time, by the permission of its Lord. What is Allah trying to tell us in this? Al-kalima tayyiba, the good word. What is that good word? It is that word that Luqman alayhi salam was teaching his son. Do not associate with Allah, meaning Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. You and I were raised learning this statement, right or wrong. How many of us know Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah? How many of us heard Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah? How many of us live and breathe Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah? That's where we have to stop here. How many of us truly translate Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah through our actions? Let me get a bit real here. How many of us, when we live every day, we go through the motions through our lives, it truly have Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah embedded in the center of our word, in the center of the I, in the center of me, which means nothing I do that is not filtered, assessed, approved by Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. How many of us, their minds, their brains are wired to run things by Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah? And the more your life every single day revolves around Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, the more successful you are. The farther away from it, the more failure you become. But here's the thing, it's not about saying Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Many of us say it. Many of us repeat that word, that statement. Many of us call it every single day in our adhan. Our call for prayers, and we stand and pray. But it's not the call that we care for. It's how we translate it in our behavior that matters. And that's where you find that you create a better you. Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah Al-Hashr, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu taqullah. Be pious, you who believe. وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. And every soul shall what? See what it has prepared for tomorrow. What have you prepared for you tomorrow? وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ, and be pious. إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Look at this part of the verse. God knows everything you do. See, the moment I realize Allah Azza wa Jal knows everything I do, He is truly aware of everything I do, I change. Let me ask you, do you think there are cameras in this hall or not? Do you think there are cameras or not? Let's assume there are cameras watching every move you make, everything you do. And then you'll be assessed at the end of the night by you watching what you've done. And furthermore, not only what you have done, but the thoughts that you have, the feelings that you had. And someone will be sitting by you. Someone will be sitting by you as you watch the camera play the movie of what you've done throughout the day. How much of what you thought, what you felt, and what you've done would you be embarrassed to be seen by someone else in a movie? How much of what you've done was it, oh, no, please, can we skip this part? Can we skip that part? Can we change this? Can we change that? Can we not see this? Can we not see that? How much of it will you be proud to show this is what you've done? This is how you were today. Dear brothers and sisters, the last part of the verse when it says, Inna Allah khabirun, He is all-knowing of what you do, means Nothing escapes Him. He is all aware of you. Then why is it that we don't take care of making sure we are at our best behavior throughout the day? It is because how much value do we give when we know that He is seeing what we do? This I want you to think with me. Shahr Ramadan, all of it, from beginning to end, is about asserting this statement, asserting this thought. Allah Azza wa Jal knows of everything you do. You should be more aware of Him. Awareness. The more your mind is aware of Allah's existence, the more you'll behave accordingly. What is accordingly? There is no moment where you can hide from Him. Which means what? You should and ought to be at your best behavior at all times. Can we actually do that? Can we actually change our behaviors and behave in such a way that we are at ease and we don't have to worry because we are in a state of awareness all the time? It's very simple. You know how? Develop positive habits. Develop the habits that will help you be in that state of mind. Change the way you think, the way you think about things, because you need to go to the roots. Look, Luqman ﷺ told his son, you want to change things from the root, make sure you have that belief. Imagine you teach your child from when they were at this young age, do not associate with God. Be aware of Him. See, it's not about we are in a state of fear. No, you don't live in a state of fear. You are not here trying to change how you behave because you fear His punishment. You shouldn't do that. You should do it because you appreciate Allah who's watching. And therefore, how you are, what you become, it should be a reflection of how you feel and think of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Then you will do this as a matter of respect, even further, as a matter of honoring yourself. Why? Allah Azza wa Jalla says it beautifully in the Quran. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The most honored in the eyes of Allah is what? The most pious amongst you. Why the most pious? Because a pious man or woman is always aware of his surrounding, of her surrounding. You know, sometimes they say, come on man, chill out, relax a little bit. Just don't be so uptight. Have fun, enjoy, don't worry about things. How could I not worry when I know there is someone such as my Lord Allah watching over me? And I don't worry out of His punishment. It's not about His punishment or His reward. It's because I appreciate what Allah has done for me. Because I know when I say Allah, what it means. I realize what it means when I say God. When I stand before Him and I pray, I need to shut down everything around me. Why? I'm standing before Him. When I stand before Allah and supplicate, Ya Nur al-Nur, Ya Nuran qabla kulli Nur, Ya Nuran ba'da kulli Nur, Ya Nuran laysa kamithlihi Nur. Look at how Allah Azza wa Jal is described in Dua Jawshan. Ya Nuran, the light of lights. Ya Nuran kulli Nur, the light of every light. Ya Nuran qabla kulli Nur, the light before any light. Ya Nuran ba'da kulli Nur, light after all light. Ya Nuran laysa kamithlihi Nur, a light like no other light. Why did the Imam use the word, the Prophet ﷺ used the word Nur? You know why Nur? Why light? Because with light, if you shut everything, if you shut all the lights around, what happens? You don't see anything. But when you turn on the lights, if it reflects on the objects and allows our eyes to capture it. So it makes things exist to us. And Allah Azza wa Jal is the source of making everything exist and bringing it to life. And everything is rooted back to life, to Allah Azza wa Jalla. When you see Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum, look at this verse. Allah la ilaha illa huwa, there's no God except He. Al-hayyul qayyum, all living. Al-qayyum, qayyum means what? That everything depends on Him and He depends on nothing. Let me ask you this. Is that how you feel towards God? That at all times, any time, every time, throughout your life that you depend on Him? Depend not in a way that, oh, I need God, I need something. God, tomorrow I have an exam, allow me to pass. God, I want this, I want that, give it to me. No, I depend on Him to exist, to be. Today, now, you're listening to me, you depend on Him, I depend on Him. I depend on Him to be, so I give. And you depend on Him to be so you can receive. An ultimate form of dependence. An ultimate form of need. Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us and reminds us at all times that remember, I've given you everything. Do not forget me. Why? In Surah Al-Hashr, He continues and He says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ. And do not be like those who forgot Allah. فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ. They forgot themselves. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Those are the transgressors. Those are the ones that lost everything. Those are the ones, they had everything. Listen, you have everything right now. You have life, and you can make it the way you want. لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة. The people of hell and the people of heaven are not equal. أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون. The people of heaven are the winners. Where do you want to be? Those who lose or those who win? Inshallah, we will try to find out tomorrow what should our life exactly be centered around in order for us to be true winners in this world throughout our lives, and how should we truly behave as winners in the eyes of Allah. Dear brothers and sisters, what is important as I share with you these words is that you actually take the time to think about them, to reflect on them. Because half an hour a day just transfers a concept for you. It is you who translates the concept into an action, into something worthwhile. Dear brothers and sisters, as we build up to the holy night of Power, the most important night in the entire year, actually every single night, from sunset to sunrise, the important time of the day, in the holy month of Shahr Ramadan. It is so important. Don't waste your time, especially in this month. Use it wisely. Spend it wisely. Take a moment, read a dua, read a supplication. Take a moment to read the Quran, verses from the Holy Quran. Even if you may not understand it fully, just the act of engaging in the recitation is useful for yourself. It has an impact. It has an impact on you, on the way you'll feel. And then you'll try harder. Dear brothers and sisters, these moments are valuable. Do not waste them. Do not burn them. Make sure that you build on them, so inshallah, you'll find the result of what you've done in the hereafter. I leave you with one word, with one statement. Remember, it's your actions right this moment, right now, that makes your hereafter. You are now shaping your eternity. Now, the choice is yours. Follow your decision, and you will be responsible for it. I ask Allah guidance and forgiveness. In the last of our prayers, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Rasulih Muhammad, wa ala ali baytihi al-tayyibin al-tahirin.